Hello, welcome to the Rooms with Ronald podcast, brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington. In 2023, I set an intention to shop 100 apartment communities to see how leasing was evolving around the country. Rooms with Ronald was born out of that experience. In this series, I share my experiences and engage in meaningful conversations with other professionals in the industry as we discuss all things related to leasing and marketing. Join in as we expand the Rooms with Ronald experiment. Have you ever had a prospect show up for a leasing tour and wondering if they were crashing your staff meeting or auditioning to be a secret shopper for a reality TV show? I had those experiences. I hit up 6 communities, mid-rise to garden style, a little in-person charm, a little virtual vanishing act. Some leasing pros brought the energy, the questions, and the follow-up, while others, let's just say I had more engaging conversations with the self-checkout kiosk, or heck, even Glimp Fizwig, who's my chat GPT assistant. There were clean apartments this time, some confusing policies, and one too many mystery owners, and a whole lot of missed opportunities. Today, we're spilling the leasing tea, what works, what flops, and why asking for the application still matters more than that selfie wall. So grab your metaphoric key fob. We're unlocking some truths. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's edition of Rooms with Ronald. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington. And in this podcast, we dive into all things leasing and marketing. Now, I thought it would be fun to give you a little teaser there at the beginning of what to expect. We're going to go for a run, so grab those gym shoes, not your street shoes, and buckle in because, boy, were my shops in May a bumpy ride. Now, I have been all over the country this month and just in general, bringing you shopping experiences. And I shopped some places that I have shopped before that when I shopped them before offered consistent bad practices in that area. And it's still no matter that it happened again this time. But this time something was different. It was finding the opportunity to tour, the places to tour, self-scheduling became harder. Not trying to find other property management companies I've not shopped for became harder, but we did it. So let's dive in. I recently was on the West Coast and I was touring properties out there and I wanted to tour in areas that I didn't tour before. So the last time I toured these properties, I toured in the downtown area. So I thought, let's get away from downtown. Let's go to the burbs. But not the burbs, but like this area's burbs. So we hit up this area, and to go online and search for apartment communities in that area was a unique experience all in itself. I found a whole district of things that I was confused by for a second. I was like, are these all the same property because of the branding? Which I will say the branding makes everything. So I tried to book out one online and I got a text message and said to book an appointment, go here. So I opened up the app. I had to hold down, copy, paste it in the browser, all the things that you already know that I hate doing. So I did all that and I get there and their CRM popped up and the only thing that I could book a tour for was 4 and 5 days out. Right. So I started looking on Saturday to book on, and I couldn't get anything for Wednesday. It was Friday, which did not work for me. And then when I was looking on Tuesday to see if they had cancellations, it was out till Sunday, right? So I couldn't book anything for the day in the day, which means if I was truly a prospect, you just lost me. So I finally found one. And I went online, I booked the appointment online, and then I never got the confirmation email. So I was really confused as to what I was going to go see. And now these properties are offering, months free, right? They're offering these months upon months that are free. So I get to the first place and I am instantly blown away by a smell. And it wasn't the type of smell that is roses and sunshine. No, I walked up to this property and I could smell the dog urine. Okay. It did not smell good. And it was all over the property. So we walk in. I'm kind of unsure of what to do. They buzz me in, and then there's this big conference table. Like, no one stands up to greet me. No one says anything, right? So I'm like, hi, I'm gravitating towards the door. I thought it was a staff meeting because it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, oh, maybe they're having a little mid-afternoon staff meeting. But they weren't. So I was like, I'm here for tour. I'm like, oh yeah, just have a seat. Someone will be with you. And then you hear like, did you book it? Did you book it? Did you book it? Right. So there was this discontinuation of what the expectation was. So I'm instantly kind of like, oh man, this isn't going to work for me. Right. So finally the leasing agent comes down, she texts my information and we go through the process, which I already put online. And, she said, do you want something to drink? We went through that. And then she started to ask me the basic questions. Again, she was super friendly and upbeat, and we started the tour and we went through all the things, but she didn't allow me the opportunity to enjoy this space. It was kind of like we were going in at a much slower pace than what I had experienced later on. So we were in the tour and she's going through the motions and here we have this. She doesn't do a great job. Let me envision myself. She's not asking me what's most important to me. She asked me when I needed the apartment. And when I said, by the end of or the beginning of June, she went to the beginning of June. And so we went to that and we saw the different buildings, and that community with the branding was all one, except for the one I was trying to book earlier in the week was a different one. So they had sold that, which was weird to me because like, how do you explain that? And then, so they had two buildings and then a building across the street and then the one in the back. The two, like the one across the street and the one in the back, sold. So she was explaining the difference and the vibe. And we went out and it was a beautiful day outside and we saw the pool and she like walked through, but it was kind of like a walk and talk and guide. Like it wasn't like stop, talk, question. It was more like we're just walking through here. And so instead of identifying what was important to me, we saw two apartments and two different buildings. And so we had to walk outside. And when we walked outside, I was like, oh, dog urine? Does it always smell like this? And she's like, yeah, we're just very pet friendly here. Like that was her way to overcome it was, oh yeah, we're just really pet friendly over here, which did mean nothing to me, right? So we go see, and I did appreciate that she explained the differences of the gym. She told me I would have access to that gym. But what really stood out to me, and I don't see this often, right, is someone came and was asking for help, and she genuinely took the time and helped them and said, oh, you're looking for a package. Sometimes they just drop them off and they're in there and we need to go. So if you just want to go across the street, so-and-so will tell you where that package is and they can help you find it. And then she came back and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know I shouldn't have done that because we were on a tour, but that resident really needed help. But to me, that showed like you were attentive to your residents' needs and you just didn't like blow them off. Like, because sometimes that happens. And I think it's because they're afraid that I'm going to be like, what do you like? What's the deal here, right? So kind of sneak in on those kinds of things. So that really stood out to me this time that she took the time to do that. And then the other thing that kind of stood out to me was is she kept wanting to push me out way past my move-in date, not by like a day or two, right? So I'm looking at the beginning of June. She was like, "Can you go into like the end of June, the beginning of July? Because we got some really great specials coming up then for these units if you can go that long." And so she instantly devalued the property in that manner for me. And I was just like, "Oh, no," right? So I was like, I needed this. I never said I was driven by price. I never said I wanted the concessions. I never even offered or asked about the concessions. So that didn't stand out to me. Then she kind of didn't really engage with me and get to know my story. And then she didn't ask me to apply for the apartment. So she literally was like, "Okay, so that's the end of the tour. Do you have any questions? Or you can just go." And that was how she was going to leave it, was just going to allow me to walk out and not go back to the office. So she missed the opportunity there, right? So that was the first place I toured. The second place was an interesting place, right? So I tried to book online, and online their marketing says we have ones, twos, and threes. I couldn't book online. So I got a link that said, "Oh, in our CRM, you can schedule your appointment here." So I scheduled it up for, "Please call or text us when we got there." But then the number wasn't highlighted, which we've all done that before, right? Again, not a problem. So as we continue, to communicate, that they did call me, and I will give them that. So they called me. So that was good. I got a follow-up email, even better, nothing super crazy. 2 days later, I got another follow-up email, except for it was the exact same email that sent 2 days ago. So it was a copy and paste. We're going through the motions. Nothing really exciting to report there, right? Now, here's the other thing though. Why not check your work? You're calling me. You're doing the things. And this leasing agent said, "Oh yeah, and you'll even be here. We'll be in the office until 6 p.m. You can just stop by whenever you want." Just stop by whenever I want. There's no urgency, but you're offering specials. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk the 15 minutes from the hotel I'm staying at to this property because I didn't rent a car. So I walk and I'm like walking up and there's an 8 frame outside that says, this garden style community, like spacious 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And if you've not listened to my podcast before, I hate the word spacious, right? So I'm like, cool. I get in. I'm like, where do I go? I find the leasing office. I hit 0 on the call box. No one answers. Now I'm kind of frustrated. Just a little bit, right? Because A, you told me just to come in. So I was doing what you said. And B, you weren't there. So how am I going to get into this secured building, right? Or controlled access building? Luckily, a resident let me in. And we go and I find that the leasing office is on the second floor. I walk into the leasing office and there are 2 leasing people sitting at the desk. One is talking to a resident, kind of laughing, and the other one's just like sitting there typing on the computer. And I was like, "Oh, hi, I wanted to work." She's like, "Well, have you talked to anyone here?" I was like, "Yeah, I put some in. I've been getting some emails. Sorry, I've just been so busy." She's like, "Okay, yeah, just have a seat." And she proceeds then to lay out all the floor. "What are you looking for?" "Oh, I'm looking for a 1 bedroom." And she's like, "Oh yeah, we have that." So she pulls it. And then she goes on to say something about, "Oh, well, a 2 bedroom." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I know I don't want a 3 bedroom." And she's like, "Oh, we don't have 3 bedrooms here." Which left me scratching my head just a little bit, right? Because all the marketing and all the advertising that I've seen for this place says 1 and 2 and 3 bedrooms. So you don't have 3 bedrooms, or do you not have any available to rent right now? Because there's a difference, and I don't think she knew. So come to find out, this was the same person who called me and texted me and emailed me. So that was good. Um, and we were going through the process, right? So she was filling me out. She did do a great job at kind of helping me shift through the process of like, could you move in a little bit earlier? And she made the connection about my dog, and we talked about my dog, and we did all those things. So I felt like that connection was there on a transaction level, right? Like it wasn't like, oh my gosh, your dog is going to be able to do this. Your dog is going to be able to do that. All of those things. So I was just like, cool. And then else was pretty like status quo. We did go and see a couple different options. So we saw two, and she wanted to take me to more. And I was like, no, I don't think I really need um, to see more, right? Because I was afraid she wasn't going to have the keys, and we had to go back to the office because when we got into the office, it was a whole process of like, where are the keys for these two units? What do we show? What do we don't show? Like, and so I didn't want to sit through that again. I was like, I'm not doing that again. So we got that situation. I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I don't need to see the view. That's not that important to me. She did a great job at explaining what the two differences of the two different floor plans and what upgraded versus not upgraded meant. And this one was unique. And this one's been sitting for a while. So she was like, it's on special. So if you wanted to move in at XYZ. So I thought that was well. I don't know that I would have shown it though, because it was dirty. Like, and that was my impression of the dust and the dead bugs and that stale smell that was kind of stale, which, mind you, I had just came from the property that smelled like dog urine. So that was at least an upgrade for that. Um, but my real problem is she didn't identify my needs. And I think like we could have actually saw just the one apartment. The second one that we saw has she spent a little time uncovering what it was that I was looking for in this apartment home. What is it that I was uncovering for that kind of thing? And then she really didn't show me the apartment. She stood in the kitchen on her phone. So I wanted her to like see my eyes light up when I saw the closet space or the half bathroom. Or, when I was talking about my desk or my collection of Starbucks mugs, where was that at? And I wanted her to engage with me at that. And she didn't. She just kind of stood there. So for a while, I was kind of confused by what her true purpose was, in the sense of what is it that she added to this journey? Because it wasn't a lot, like basic questions. She kind of fumbled on the insurance question and things like that. So I got the impression she was kind of new to the property. And when I would ask questions, she didn't have the answer to it. She'd be like, well, it just depends. Oh, or the opinions. And so I lost a little bit of trust with her as a leasing agent. But with that being said, we are now 26 shops in the process. And she is so far the only person that asked me to apply directly. And she said, so it sounds like you really love that second option that's going to be available now for you to move in. So you said you were looking to be flexible. You can take possession of that now. Would you like to go back to the office and set up online and apply for this apartment with confidence? And I said I needed some more time to think about it. And she's like, not a problem. I will follow up with you. And then I got the generated up, But so with that being said, while she did some things not so great and things I wish she would have had it done and really uncovered and tied that all back into me, she did ask me to apply for the apartment when no one else was doing that. So that was a win. Then I went to another property in this area. So this was my third property. And this one was interesting because it was the sister property that had just sold from this brand, so that they had to do some rebranding because that brand was still there, which it wasn't a consistent how they labeled the name of the buildings, but we'll take it. So this was a brand new build. I walked in. I was a little early because I was also in a rush that day, just to be delayed. But so we walk in and they let me in, and there's a person sitting over here, like just he hauling about. And then so I'm like, good morning. Like I'm super bubbly. If you can't tell, and the other person's like, good morning. And I was like, oh, I have a tour. She's like, oh yeah, you're going to be touring with her. She's not a morning person. Don't talk about your coworker like that. So I was like, yeah. And I know I'm a little early. And they're like, yeah, not a problem. So that girl has me go sit over and wait. And so I'm waiting there, and they're talking about their morning coffee and like what they did. And like I get it that you aren't open yet, but maybe don't let me in at that point, right? So it was kind of awkward. They were getting some pricing together. And so she finally gets the pricing together. And instead of coming to me, she has me go to her. So she's like, oh, you can come on over now. So she ushers me back over to her desk, which she's like going through the whole thing. And so I tell her what I'm looking for. She's pulling up her availability. And then we go on the tour. And this was a speedy tour, right? We like 20 minutes from the time I arrived to the office to the time I left. And we like went through, I learned that she was the assistant manager, but she never introduced herself to me. I think she made a comment that, yeah, the assistant manager has to sit on the floor too. The only person that has an office in this building is the manager. Okay. And we go through the package room, and this is where you get packages, and we keep going through all this space. And again, it was one of those, I don't want you here, so let's just go. Until we got to this opportunity, right? We're in the clubhouse. We go out, and she's like, oh yeah, and that's the selfie wall. And we keep walking. I'm like, wait. You guys have a selfie wall? She's like, yeah, anyone can use it. It's there for whatever. I'm like, so like, literally you just go and take a selfie in front of it? And like, do I get to use a hashtag if I move in? Oh, if you want. I literally became interested in this selfie wall, and it did not click on her to take me over to the selfie wall and let me see it, because I was confused because it was behind a curtain, like a sheer curtain. So I was like, oh, I don't think the lighting's that great, but maybe they actually had things in there. So like, if you're going to use that as an amenity, take the prospect to them and tell them, hey, let's take a photo in the selfie photo or on the selfie wall or in the selfie space so you can remember your time here at ABC Community. Nope, she just went right on bulldozing through it. And we were going through the apartments, and we saw it, and she was like, well, this is technically a studio because the bedroom doesn't have a window, so we did X, Y. I get it, right? So she stood in one spot. She actually walked out real quick to do something, and then like came back while I'm like looking around, and I'm like trying to visualize, where am I going to put my stuff? Where is this going to go? Where is this going to do? How is this going to work? And I couldn't do it. So I was like kind of bummed. We get back to the office, and I will say that she probably did the best job out of all my tours of really explaining the process, telling me, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, not asking me to apply, but she walked me through what I would do if I chose to apply, and that she was going to send it to me via a link. We were going through all the fees, and there was a new fee that kind of really stood out to me in a way. And she was like, and you're going to pay this $15 a month porter fee, and we just bill it to you. And I was like, oh, well, that's weird. I've never had to pay that before somewhere. Can you explain to me what it is? Oh, yes, I can. So the porter fee is a fee that we charge to our residents for our groundskeepers to keep the place beautiful. So they take care of cleaning the common area spaces, the landscaping, all of that. Now, while I understand the concept, it kind of felt like I was paying their payroll. And maybe that's just my perception. So I wish she would have found a new way to call it something different than making it sound like I'm paying the payroll, because I'm also paying like $2,000 to live here. So maybe it's for things like the water and the fitness center. It's for, Keeping the barbecue grills clean so everyone can use it. It's for the doggy baths. It's for the pool. It's the upkeep of the grounds so that you are proud when your friends come over. So you can take that photo that we took in that selfie wall and post it everywhere and be proud of it. A different way than saying something like it's just for our Porter team, right? So I kind of was instantly put off from that. Then she said she was going to send me over all of that information and that fee sheet that she went literally line by line by line. Some of it didn't pertain to me. I was kind of over my head. She spent more time actually sitting at her desk going over that fee sheet than we did on the actual tour of the community itself. So I think that they've had some issues, but hey, I'm glad to see that we're taking the time to do that. She did not follow through though and send that to me or anything else. She did say, I'm going to send you a text in a little bit. It's going to sound like it's automated. It's going to feel like it's automated, like it's an AI, but it's just me and it'll have the link to the website, which it did. But I didn't want you to think it was spam. So why not change the verbiage if you're going to be the one sending it? Why are you putting the template in there? Why not make the template sound more like you? We did bond over working in hotels, which I thought was cool. So tie that in, and she did not do that. And then ever since then, it's been a follow-up or text email. So that was one area. I was going to the East Coast for the holiday, and I thought it would be kind of fun to shop some properties in those areas. So I'm going online, going to my ILSs, and it was hard to find properties that I could do tours in, right? So a lot of them weren't self-scheduling, and I didn't know when I was going to be there. So I was looking for this would be a perfect time to do a virtual tour. So I booked a virtual tour at a property. I got the email that was like, we're so excited to meet you, which I thought was really cute. I was like, yes, we're on the right track. I got the link. I got all the details. 4 hours later, I got please meet us at this address. And I got that. And then I got another email that says your e-tour is about to start, your virtual tour. So I clicked on the website. I clicked on the login because they didn't give me true instructions. Do I do this from a computer? Do I do this from the phone? Where do I do this from? So I logged in from my phone because that's what I was working from at the time, thinking that. And I waited. And I waited. And I waited. 15 minutes past my tour time, no one got on for this virtual tour, which was a bummer because I was so excited for this virtual tour. Matters worse, they never showed up. I had booked another tour in the area virtually. They were going to FaceTime me. Someone applied for a unit, so they didn't FaceTime me. They canceled the tour. Another one wanted me to apply for the apartment before they could show me the tour, so I didn't do that. Then my last two, I was coming back home, and I went back, and I was in the area of my home, traveling between multiple states that I got in. The first one, I was a garden style. The lady was super friendly. She literally was standing at the door when I walked in. The grounds could use work, not the best. But we sat down. She laid out all the floor plans like they do, and she was going through the process. She understood what I was looking for. She really honed in. She was telling me the differences. She was filling out a paper guest card, and she asked me for my home address where I currently lived. And I was like, oh, why do you need that? That's kind of weird. And she's like, oh, we're just required to put it on this paper. That was her reasoning. And so I hesitantly gave her that. She got to know my dog. She wanted to see a photo of my dog. We did the whole thing right. She did so good. We went into the gym, and we saw this small gym, and the equipment wasn't that nice. And there was a sign that said, no street shoes are to be worn in the gym. And so I said, what's a street shoe? And she was like, oh, well, you have your gym shoes. And I was like, well, so what I feel like is on my feet are gym shoes. She's like, yeah, they're gym shoes, but they're your street shoes because you're wearing them on the street. So you can only wear shoes that you're going to wear to the gym, and that is it in here. That's a rule. Just like they do at the YMCA. Okay, first off, we're not that luxurious. The rent wasn't that much to have that kind of mindset. So now I have to buy a pair of gym shoes that I only wear to the gym to go on this tour, like to work out in this gym. So there was that, but she did really great in the apartment explaining the differences between the two. She didn't have one she could show me, and tying it into my dog. And it's like, so what view do your dog want? And what do you think about the closet space? And where's your curio mugs going to go? So she instantly built that connection. And then she took me back to the office, gave me my ID, and sent me on the way. And then I got some follow-up calls from her and a couple of emails, but nothing that talked about what we did and things like that. And then the last one, I was probably the best tour that I had of the 5, and super bubbly, super nice. She never introduced herself, but she had a name badge, and I realized that she was the district manager for this brand new lease up. She got to identify my needs. She made the tour fun. We made a connection, so it wasn't all about sell, sell, sell. It was more about, what are you looking for? Identify your needs. She tried to recruit me to come work in multifamily. She was like, I think you have the personality where you would be great in here. This property was only open for like a week or two, and I felt bad because they had busted the mirror already. So she did all the things. She showed me the smaller unit so I could see the difference in the square footage, which was literally like a door and like the way the tiles angled. Where this prospect fell, like where she failed, is the follow-up. It was a generic follow-up. It was not guided. It was not a lot of valuable information. So I think she could have dove in. It's a brand new lease up, right? I understand they're busy, but adding those little personal touches for me would have wanted me to apply for the apartment, because it was a super cute apartment, a great location, amenities that I wanted. The staff was attentive when I was there. Like, I was the only thing that mattered. It was just, once I walked out the door, I knew I wasn't coming back. She never asked me to apply for the apartment, which tells me that's a leadership problem. So we need to get our leaders bought back into that. Wow, we went all over the country in this episode, shopping apartments. As you can see, it was truly a tea time. It's truly understanding the policies and effectively communicating them. You've been listening to Rooms with Ronald, a podcast about all things leasing and marketing. I hope you enjoyed my adventures in my May shops. We're up to 27. I can't believe we're almost into June, or we are into June at this point now. And I can't wait to bring you the June shops. I got some exciting places I'm going to be traveling and shopping properties, and you're going to be the first to hear about it. Until next time, guys, happy leasing. Bye. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope I left you with some fresh ideas or a new perspective. Leasing and marketing are evolving rapidly, and Rooms with Ronald is committed to offering a place to hear about those changes. We also celebrate and acknowledge the fundamentals of exceptional service that will never go out of style. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, or subscribe. Visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other exceptional industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities.